Welcome to the Growth Series by Innovation Factory. Here we dive into the journeys of startups, entrepreneurs, and innovators, sharing their challenges, wins, and everything in between. Tune in as we hear from founders who've secured investment, scaled their businesses, and made game-changing exits. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take that next big step, we're here to inspire and guide you on your path to success. Today you're listening to...
Hi, my name is Arvid Rimkus. I am the founder of Nonna's Harvest and the chief pasta crafter for Pretto's Pasta Lasagna.
And I'm John Holland. I am a mentor and coach and executive in residence at the Innovation Factory in Hamilton.
In my previous life, I worked in agriculture. And the result of that background was I ended up working in international development, working with farmers in Africa and Asia for about 15 or 20 years. I ended up moving to Winona. I wanted to get back into agriculture, and the whole idea was food processing, to me, is the last step of agriculture, taking basic ingredients, mixing together to make wonderful things that people want to eat. I was living in Winona at the time, even before I started doing this, and I came up with the name Nonna's Harvest. And Winona is actually part of East Hamilton now. And it's actually a renowned agricultural area for years and years. The next thing that happened was Nonna's Harvest was able to buy Pretto ravioli. It was a business started by Rose and Fred Pretto back in the early 60s. They used traditional recipes and at that time the first specialized ingredients to make tortellini and ravioli and things like that. But what really nailed it for me was tasting their lasagna. I had never had a real Italian lasagna before. The first time I tried it, it was, oh my God, this is what I want to make. So it was a little bit of serendipity that brought me to this point in time.
So my background, funny enough, was in Africa. I grew up in what was Southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, and my family was involved in the agricultural industry and cattle ranching and the cattle business. But I ended up not living there and working around the globe for companies like Unilever and Sara Lee. I ended up in Canada, and about 6 or 7 years ago, I was really interested in innovation during my corporate career, and the Innovation Factory was getting off the ground. And at that time, I came to a lot of the functions just to participate and listen because I was very interested in young people innovating. And one thing led to another, and I ended up as one of their in-house, if you want, advisors and mentors and executive in residence. And shortly after, met Arvid because he was seeking some advice and help and counsel on, getting this business turned around. And that's how we met. We met here, found a lot of common ground in terms of the African experience, food industry because of my Sara Lee and other experiences. And here I am, and it's been, a very rewarding and fun experience as well to be here with lots of people. I wouldn't say Arvid is young, but he's young at heart.
I believe there's not one thing that you can make that pleases everybody. We make the highest quality lasagna possible. I call it Nonna quality. Everyone in Hamilton, because there's lots of Italians, would know who Nonna is. And, one of the things I always joke around is that, we don't have a secret recipe because there's probably 500,000 Nonnas in Canada that know how to make this lasagna. But one of the things that make it really Nonna quality, we make fresh egg pasta and roll it out really, really thin. So when I first had Rose Pretto's lasagna, before buying the business, it was a, oh my God, experience compared to most store-bought frozen lasagnas, which got thick pasta with a lot of filler and stuff like that.
From an innovative point of view, and from an outsider looking in from the Innovation Factory at their business, what's really been most compelling in the last couple of years has been Arvid's and his team's inclination to find new recipes, for example?
We have things like a buttered chicken lasagna. So we basically take all the ingredients that go into buttered chicken, garam masala, turmeric, cardamom, coriander, yogurt, to get the flavor just right. And when we were experimenting with that, it was funny. I was doing a demo at Mary Lou's Market. I just wanted to see if anyone would be interested in something like this. And the woman that came in on the very first person, she saw that we were doing the buttered chicken lasagna, and she said, "Oh my God, you've combined my two favorite things, buttered chicken and lasagna." So that's one example of an innovation or whatever. But we do a mushroom lasagna that's done with an Alfredo sauce. We started now making, we've got 2 gluten-free lasagnas, recognizing that there are a significant number of people that are trying to avoid gluten. And we're about to make a vegan lasagna. One of the things that we're trying to do also that differentiates us is the local factor. We try to get as many ingredients as we can locally. We are approved to use the Foodland Ontario logo on our lasagnas because most of our ingredients are from Ontario. So for example, our tomatoes are from Leamington. We use our dairy products are from Gayley, which is a Ontario farmers co-op or a Canadian farmers co-op. Our mushrooms come from Carlisle, just literally up the road. Maybe it's even part of Hamilton. I don't even know, but that's how close it is. So that's one of the things. Also, just expanding on the idea of local is using other local trades. We're doing boiler work. We probably spent $25,000 installing a boiler from Central Boiler that was literally a kilometer from where our production facility is. We've had students from the McMaster University, engineering students, helping us with our automation. Well, basically, when I first came here, it was just me and my brother, and we were doing everything. We started making lasagnas on a pot on a stove. It was that labor intensive. And so again, it was just the 2 of us. We were doing the marketing, the sales, the production, trying to upgrade. And so and that was the situation when we first came to the Innovation Factory. And so some of the things that, John helped with was just getting a framework for doing financials and the data that we need to collect on a regular basis, and that's been an ongoing thing to try and improve on that kind of thing. But there was a lot of support, like just discussions, brainstorming, in terms of what needs to be done at the facility and in terms of what we're doing. But, also there's John, he's one component of what's going on at the Innovation Factory, but just, some of the seminars that, I would come in and participate in, and some of even the sessions for competitions for other entrepreneurs, I just liked enjoying it, seeing that aspect of business and talking to various people about, technology. And technology has been very important in what we're doing in terms of our upgrading. And then there's the connections that we've made because of John and the Innovation Factory. So, for example, these students that came from McMaster were through John and the Innovation Factory, and this resulted in these big upgrades that allow us to. We're down to the point where when I first made lasagnas with Rose Pretto, we could do about 10 lasagnas per hour, 750, and that's pretty good for Nonna in her kitchen, but not so viable for a business. Well, now with our production system that we have, we can make about 300 plus 750 gram lasagnas per hour, and so that was one of the outcomes from that. We ended up getting a connection with the Meridian Credit Union, that we might not have found. We got a line of credit through them with the Innovation Factory. The Innovation Factory had brought us attention various funding for food safety initiatives that we were able to avail ourselves of. That made a significant difference. And, and there was this moral support. It's gonna sound weird, but just you're sitting there and you're doing all of this stuff, and I don't know, that support is huge.
Yeah, it's somebody who you can call to bounce an idea off. It's a sounding board, and in a way, without being hard on say Arvid, we are an accountability platform. We do try to establish progress on whether the electronics board with the McMaster student was on time, whatever, whether the production line changes were, on time, and how was it going, that kind of thing. So just continue to keep an eye on how things are moving along. And also, one of the things that was truly impressive, just because my background is marketing, is the packaging design. And he called in an outside designer who did
Koala Creative. They're based in the area. And yeah, it was one of those things. When I first met with John, there was I think the labels were done on a dot matrix printer, and I'm not a big to me, I believe in doing things that go in the product, but the reality is I learned from John, people buy with their eyes, and that really makes a difference. And so the packaging it's made a huge difference. There are people that actually have told me, you know what, I bought this for the first time because I like the look of the package. So, that was huge. So there have been a lot of benefits through my relationship with John and the Innovation Factory.
And so I'm just seeing the business turn around significantly. The income, it was a small mom and pop kind of business, the Nonna business, as you said. But now it's a more sophisticated mass market commercial enterprise that is able to service department store chains or key account retail chains like Sobeys, for example. And so the whole change, what I would call is from a stage 1 company to a stage 3 company, it has happened. And he has been, working jolly hard with his family and team to actually get there. And I mean, sometimes 24/7.
One of the things that needs to be done in this day and age is everyone has to be productive. The whole idea of having a room full of Nonnas assembling lasagnas ain't going to work in this day and age. And we've come up with, it started up by Milk and Crook, taking equipment that we had and repurposing it to make this production line. So now, with these engineering students that we have at McMaster, we've got a production line where we can make the thin pasta. We take flour and eggs, we roll it out really thin through a profiler that we made. We couldn't buy this. We couldn't hire an engineering company, to build a production line, because I'm sure they would, it would have cost $1 or $2 million to build what we have in place. So now this pasta comes out, it goes through an 18-foot bath of water. We've got these cutters that take the pasta and cut the pasta. We've got a guillotine. We've got an automated pumping system that takes the basic ingredients. So the tomatoes from Leamington, the mushrooms from Carlisle, right? We put them into a big kettle. We have a very, very clean label, and so, but now it's an automated process where we can make all these lasagnas, and the consistency is perfect. Each lasagna is going to come out within 10 grams of the desired weight, and the taste is perfect. And these engineering students at McMaster helped us all put this together. So we had all this equipment, but it had to be manipulated individually. Well, because of this program that we had with the engineering students, we push a button and all the settings are done automatically. And it just makes a huge difference. Production is being done without me being there, and just pushing a few buttons and the lasagnas are coming out.
One of the significant changes that Arvid moved from being in the business with his hands in the kettle to being on top of the business at a helicopter level, steering and guiding, because he has systems and people and controls that he can trust to do the business. The other corollary of this is that when you deliver a food product to a retail store like Sobeys or Mary Lou's or Farmers Market, or whatever it is, the quality has to be consistent. Arvid said that. Now with this kind of process, it is consistent, and therefore you can deliver on it.
It's interesting because we made all these changes, which are really, there's a lot of, and these are really over the past couple of 3 years, we've made these changes, the physical changes that need to come into the plant, the food safety initiatives. I mean, it's not inexpensive, and it's not just allocating a person. We ended up spending over $45,000 in getting our, for consultants to get our food safety designation in place, which will allow us to, go North America wide, because these are the expectations. But at the same time, like, our sales have increased by around 95%. Our year end is June. And over the past year, we had about a 93 or 94% increase in sales. But the reality is now we want to try and really expand a lot quicker. We have a capacity now we can do production in one day that will meet basically 2 weeks worth of sales, our existing sales. So the whole idea is getting our facility going, rocking and rolling every day. And I believe we can get in the order of $5 to $6 million worth of production out of this facility without, a major upgrade. So the whole idea now is to focus on expanding our sales.
So the in-house systematic stuff is organized. We're looking externally towards how do we penetrate the rest of Canada, for example, and that is in terms of a sales go-to-market structure. And do we use, distributors or brokers or wholesalers? What's the network and the logistics and supply chain to deliver? So that's one thing. And the US is a whole nother animal because you're going cross-border, but you need to have that establishment on the ground so that you can make the connections with the key accounts and so on and get into those stores.
I don't know, to me it's serendipity that I named the business Winona's Harvest because the Prettos, who I bought Pretto ravioli of, they lived up 50 Road in Winona. They were local also. Their product was actually in John Fortino's first store in Hamilton, way back in the day. That hasn't resulted in anything yet, but in my mind, I love that story. There's a huge food culture already in Hamilton. There was an article in the Hamilton Spectator. This was, about 5 or 6 years ago. Again, it was still me and my brother at that point in time, just making lasagnas. And I had no idea what this article was how it was going to result. I just made sure all the stores in the area were stocked up, Roma Bakery, Mary Lou's Market, the Goodness Me stores that we're in. And, the article came out at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday morning. And by 10 o'clock, Mo from Mary Lou's is calling me, what's going on? We basically, my brother and I sold $1 million on a monthly basis, monetized for that month. It just went off the shelf. So, some people know about our product, because of the articles like that, but also because there's a lot of food businesses here. So for example, our production manager, Mark, he worked at a facility and he had a lot of training already. He came in to our facility really with an excellent skill set. So that pool of people is available also in Hamilton. There's the local, all the ingredients, the location for ingredients coming in, but our location for stuff going out is actually perfect also. For locally, we are literally 3 minutes off of the highway, and going North America wide. Well, if you look at the percentage of the North American population in the Northeast United States, it is a large number, and we have access to that market. So with respect to Hamilton, no, it's important. And, my dream is that this is still a pilot plant, and we will be building a larger facility on the upper mountain there at some point in time. Well, the first thing that's going to happen over the next couple of years is just basically expanding the sales. We have the capacity to do that now. We're going to have some small investments, things like a blast freezer, so we can freeze things a lot quicker to basically support those sales. But I do believe that this is a pilot plant. I believe that there are many things that we could be making. The name of our company is Pretto's Pasta. So it's not lasagna, but we have the potential to expand on that. Okay, let's make other things. Look for other opportunities. And you know what? We are really on top of. We want to continue with the automation. My dream is that we can have people that are being paid a decent wage. I don't want it to be a standard food industry wage, but we can pay a good wage with benefits to our staff because we're productive. Our productivity is high, so we're going to continue doing that kind of stuff.
From a consumer point of view, Peter Drucker once said, the purpose of a business is to satisfy a customer profitably. And so on that simple measure, if you want, the product here, I love working with good quality brands or products. The intrinsic value of this product is right there. There's no question about it. You have to pay a little bit more for this product, but honestly, you'll remember the experience of eating one of Arvid's lasagnas long after the price is forgotten. And so that is a platform in any business to take it somewhere else. And so there's the brand evolution, which is on the table now, as he described. How do we extend into other types of products under the banner of the business, or do we create, sub-brands into other categories? There's also the distribution part where we can play in new verticals, as well as geographic expansion. There's also the ability of the business to relocate now from the pilot plant to a bigger place in due course and get more and bigger financing to enable that to happen. And so I think they're on the cusp of something really significant. It requires careful planning and justification, but the opportunities are there. The consumer opportunities are there. If you have a great product and you can go to market in an effective way, you will make it. It'll take time, but you will get there. And so I have no doubt that, with his team and with everybody else kind of on side, this is something that's quite exciting for Hamilton. Hamilton is a wonderful center of business now. It's an ecosystem of its own, but it's also outward-looking, and that outward-looking capability is natural ingredient story. All of the good things are in place.
You know what? I literally was at a point where I knew I couldn't do things by myself. I was doing too much on my own anyways, and that is a continual problem for me. And so like 3 years ago, like I said, Alex Castelline, my ex-stepson, he became involved in the business. He's president of the company. His dad is, responsible for all aspects of food safety and a lot of other things at World Pasta headquarters. Where we are today, we wouldn't have been there without, those two individuals. Having the innovation factory, John's, the advice that we get from, from the innovation factory, the things that we've done, that we have had the kind of feedback that that allows us to move forward. So, that was one of the big things, is getting the right people involved in the business at the right time.
One of the important things for entrepreneurs to maybe consider is the fact that this advice is available. The RIC concept and the Innovation Factory is one of many now in Ontario, which are supported by government and local and city councils and universities and so on. But the thing is, what we're offering is advice and coaching and mentoring. And one of the great things about a guy like Arvid is that he's coachable. Dare I say it?
Well, some people would argue differently.
Yeah, so it's how you coach, which is also important. But you know what? If you're prepared to take advice, you can really make a lot of positive changes in your life. And so open to an entrepreneur, for example, a lesson learned is, be prepared to listen and take advice. And the reason why, because I worked in Cerely, Unilever, and Procter for many years, the reason why they're successful is that they have taken advice. They adopt best practices. They learn from others. They are open to everything. So that's the same for small businesses. We can do the same. One of the things I just wanted to allude to or mention going forward is that he has a core brand that is great. But one of the things in marketing or business development now that is required is awareness generation. You need to get your brand awareness up as you go into new markets. And so that's part of the new plan is, I guess, to consider how to activate not only social media, but other forms of marketing to get your brand awareness levels up in new markets or new verticals. So that is something on the table, which all companies should bear in mind. To sell a product, you need to get awareness, interest, desire, and action, AIDA, right? And that's very, simple, but how you do it is important.
I have to say, you got to have resilience. You got to keep plugging away, and not everyone has the opportunity to, do what, I did. But right now, well, if someone for Fortino's is listening, I'd be willing to come up there and introduce our product to you because it is. And we were in John Fortino's first store. Okay, remember that. That would be a great marketing thing.
No, I think it's a good case study in a project that took time to reach where it is right now. But it's a credit to Arvid because he stayed the course personally and from a business point of view. And, that resilience is remarkable. He's an amazing person for having done that. I think from an innovation factory point of view, we're there to help provide ongoing advice and counsel as needed. And sometimes it's high intensive, and other times Arvid and I wouldn't probably not talk for a month or two. And then suddenly you pick up the phone and it's as easy as that. And you start talking about issues and problems, and then we can deal with them.
Thanks for tuning into the Growth Series. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and stay inspired. Until next time, keep innovating.